So repetition is like you go, you do your bench press, you do 10 sets 5 times, whatever it is. That's a repetition. So literally you've done the same movement 50 times, up and down, up and down, up and down. Okay. So that is very important when we're talking about, and sorry, I'm kind of relating this back to wealth, but I'll answer your question. When we're talking about wealth, it's doing the same thing 50 times before progressing to something else.
Exactly.
Having the discipline to then understand, okay, well, I didn't do it the best at the 47th time, but that's fine. We'll keep going.
Welcome to the King Dems podcast, where we share the stories of extraordinary people and dissect hot, relevant topics that shape our world. From visionary leaders to trailblazing creatives, we uncover the mindset, strategy, and grit behind greatness. Whether it's business, culture, or personal growth, we ask the real questions. This isn't just conversation, it's transformation. The King Dems podcast. Your next breakthrough starts here.
Music licensing reimagined.
We are live, ladies and gentlemen. You're once again welcome to the King Dems podcast. And today I have with me my brother from another mother, a Nigerian, but in the world down under. Big welcome, Victor Idoko. How are you, Victor?
I'm doing amazing. Thanks for having me on the show today. It's a great opportunity to be here and talk to you. So I'm very much looking forward to the show.
Wow, my Nigerian brother. Let me give you another name. You know, Victor is not a Nigerian name, but Victor means Shagun in Yoruba. So
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Shagun.
I'm your Shagun today. Let's do it. I'm your Shagun for the show.
You know, like my biases, my positive biases towards you are just too many. You know, Nigerian, you're an economist. Myself, finance guy like myself. Why? You know, too many connecting dots.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing. It's amazing getting connected as well.
You know, but you know, your journey in finance actually started not just from study, but from like deep personal experiences. So, are you able to share that aha moment that made you commit to simplifying wealth building for others?
Yeah, so I always tell people that I'm really blessed to have grown up the way I grew up because I think it just shaped me a lot for what I do. And I grew up in a world where my dad was a soldier, my mom was a teacher, so there was lots of discipline and sequence right from the get-go. That's what I'm used to. You do X, you're fine. You do Y, you're in trouble. You know, it's just that simple. There's no other way. So in terms of the aha moments for me as to finance was when my dad back then was opening checks. I was probably 5, 6, not more than 7 years old. He was opening checks, and then I was like, "Well, what's this?" Look, I don't know if he did it intentionally. I should still ask him. I keep forgetting to ask him. I don't know if he did it intentionally to teach me, but I was like, "What are these checks? What are these numbers?" And back then they were Kobo, Kobo, so very 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 small amount. Minor, Naira and Kobo. So there were Kobo, and I was like, "This is tiny money." He's like, "Yes, he's getting money because he gave someone money, and that person gave him." I was like, interested. So right from then, each time I go back and think, okay, what was my first memory about finance or money or investing? And that's the first one that actually comes to mind. So I think I've just been shaped because since then, there are lots of other things that just kicked in that shaped me to be a wealth manager and a good financial advisor to lots of people out there, just to show them, okay, what are the ways to build wealth? What are the ways to actually manage their money? That was my dad's path. My mom, on the other hand, really taught me how to budget and save and all that. So all that just came naturally. So it was very easy for me to teach people. And then by the time you add all the qualifications and degrees that I've done as well, so there was strong practical and strong theoretical knowledge together, which just gave me the, okay, yep, this is what I'm meant to be doing, because lots of people need this. Lots of people really need to understand how to manage money.
Interesting, that financial fitness. So recently, one of my guests on the podcast, Morgan Anderson, she is a top taxer debt resolution expert in the United States.
Okay.
And she gave me a title. She said, "You are a modern day business philosopher."
Okay.
Interesting. And yeah, I do come up with, my own philosophical theories about business and life generally. And one that I came up with recently is that for you to be a well-rounded person, you have to be fit. And fitness has four quadrants. Number one, you should be spiritually fit. Number two, you should be mentally fit. Number three, you should be physically fit. And number four, you should be financially fit.
Mm.
Right. You often talk about living a rewarding and fulfilling life, not just financially, but holistically. So you are connecting, with my philosophy, even without realizing it. So, like, how
Yeah,
do
yeah.
you personally define that rich life today?
Yeah, very, very good question. I read Simon Sinek's book, What is Your Why? And I think
Mm,
that's when I came up with the live a rewarding and fulfilling life. Or rather, we're here to help people live a rewarding and fulfilling life. And, that reward to me is, well, make your money work as hard as it can for you so you
mm,
get rewarded for that. Okay. So in an ideal world, you want your money working while you're sleeping, while you're enjoying, while you're having fun. So you're getting rewarded for your hard-earned money already. And the fulfillment comes around shaping the life you want. People in life want different things. Wherever you are, whether you're in, Australia, Africa, or, the UK, you want a certain thing in life. Sometimes you might not be able to even articulate that properly, but you want a certain thing, and generally it ties down around maybe family, or maybe reaching your potential as an individual. That will resonate with lots of entrepreneurs. It might just be, being able to provide for, extended family, whatever the case is. So that fulfillment comes into the equation as living a rewarding and fulfilling life because you have the reward, which gives you money, and that money can actually help you live the life you want to live. And I was speaking to a few clients the other day, and sometimes some clients are a little bit uh, hesitant, I won't say shy, hesitant to talk about your goals with me. And sometimes because they want these amazing things and they feel bad because, the world we live in, many people don't have access to these amazing things. And I'm like, well, there's nothing wrong in wanting the amazing things. I think you should want it and you should strive towards it. So that is their rewarding, sorry, that is their fulfillment in life, getting to those things. So our goal is to help people manage their wealth so they have that rewarding and fulfilling life, and then life is just amazing. You mentioned a few things there, and we have a few dynamics as well, or three pillars we get people to really think about: wealth, health, relationships. Okay, and we say if these three aspects are going well in your life, life is amazing. Life is just beautiful. And this is where I always caveat and say, hey, people, I don't know nothing about health, and I don't know nothing about relationship. I'm your wealth guy.
to
And
sort out the remaining two.
yes, exactly. So I need help with the remaining two. And I think the key thing there for people as well is to understand that no one's life is perfect. I know I preach these things, but my life is not perfect. But the one thing that I really get and I really understand is wealth. I just get wealth. I know how to. You give me a balance sheet, I can look at the company and be like, yep, good company, don't buy that, or great company, buy that. Sorry, bad company, don't buy that, or great company, buy that. Or that doesn't fit in your portfolio, or you need cash flow, you need protection, whatever it is. Like I get that. I just know how to help people with that. But when it comes to, things like fitness, I'm okay with that. But other parts in health, I probably not eat the best. Should probably change that. And then talk about relationships as well. I think I've been on a journey just to understand my own personal self, and it's always evolving, right? But by the time you chuck in, relationships with then significant others, relationships with family, those are things that people need help with as well. So all that ties into that rewarding and fulfilling life. So those are the three pillars I get people to kind of work on. Like, yep, I'm your wealth guy, but other than that, I can give you my perspective on things, but it doesn't mean my perspective on health and relationships are the best or what you should do. So, but wealth, yes, you should listen to me.
Please, pick one pillar and, be strong at that pillar. I like
Yeah, pretty
that.
much. And I know we're probably going to get to this, but in my book, I talked about it. I talked about comparative advantage. Comparative advantage is when you know what you're good at,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
you kind of communicate clearly to the world or people around you that I'm good at this thing. And if no one else is better at that thing for you, they should allow you kind of manage that aspect. So going back to the three pillars, I know my strength is the wealth. So it's like, yep, let's get your wealth in shape, but your health and relationship, I can put you in touch with other people that can help you with things like that.
Wow, interesting. There's quite a number of things to unpack. So one of the things that I like to talk about is, people need to strive to achieve, what they really want. And interestingly, it aligns with one of my philosophies, I've shared on the podcast and recent past. So there's a mantra I have. It's called conceive, believe, and achieve. And after my
Mm.
birthday, I did update that to conceive, believe, strive to thrive and achieve. Of course, you just stealing from my book.
I know, right? I know, yeah,
That
which is
is what
amazing.
Nigerians know how to do best.
No, but I like that. Believe and achieve. Did you say?
Conceive,
That's
believe,
what
achieve, right? That is what it was
the old one.
before. Yeah, but now it's conceive, believe, strive to thrive and achieve.
Thrive. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing. Yeah.
you,
Look, I
you
love
achieve.
that. I think.
Yeah, you have to strive to thrive.
Yeah. And people sometimes we're just so close, but it feels so
Hmm.
far from our goals. And when you
Hmm.
stop, you never get there. So
Yeah.
definitely very important for people to kind of achieve what they want. And I always say the main thing is as long as you're not intentionally hurting anyone.
Hmm.
That you should be free to chase your goals. You should be free to chase
Uh-huh.
what you want in life. You should be free to achieve. You should be free to strive to thrive.
Exactly. Winners don't quit, quitters don't win.
Yeah, yeah. So
But it's really sad to see how, a lot of people don't believe in themselves. And a lot of people like to catch up or keep up with the Joneses. They want to be like other people. What
mm,
happened to individuality? I loved when you talked about chasing your area of comparative advantage. I've talked about that on this show, but I call it your area of competitive advantage. That's the economist in you speaking. So growing up, for me, I used to be in the choir, and somebody was asking me recently, like, why didn't you take music seriously? I told them I always saw people that were more gifted than me, musically, but I never really saw people who were more gifted than me at presentations or speaking or talking with people. And then I chose my path. I wanted to be a broadcaster growing up. When I told my father I
yeah.
wanted to study mass communication, he told me, if you know you pay the school fees yourself, go pick that course.
The typical
African
African
parents.
parents. So you that either doctor, lawyer, engineer, and you're happy. Nothing else. Nothing.
I ended up in the finance pathway like yourself, ended up in the big four and all, but here we are. Instead of
Yeah.
broadcaster, I changed it to podcaster.
Well, I think podcasting now is a lot better than broadcasting. So broadcast when you were growing up, then there wasn't too much podcasting. So I was saying,
So here we are today, and I know I'm one of the best in the world at this thing. You get it? So just leave it for me, tell them leave it. It's interesting how a lot of people don't get to discover themselves, or probably are shy, about doing something they are highly gifted at, because people might laugh at them or look at them silly or look at them in some sort of way. For me, when I started, people were like, this guy's a chartered accountant. Why are you going to podcasting? Like, what the hell is this? Why? But as we go further, sometimes I see some people, even in our field, coming to reach out to me and saying, "Oh wow, I'd like for you to mentor me, in podcasting. I'd like to start my own podcast now." I'm like, "Oh wow, am I an influencer now? Am I influencing? Am I influencing a new wave?" You get it? So I really don't get it. But what's your word, for people out there to try to chase their dreams, despite, would I say, any form of rejection or ridicule from people?
yeah, yeah. So it's one of those things where I feel chasing your dreams, people don't understand your dreams like you do. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes thinking about dreams, they always say change the goals or whatever, but the thing about your dreams or your goals is you'd never know if you get there or not without trying.
Mm-hmm.
So, from my perspective, it's always about getting people to just try. Try
Mm-hmm.
if it's taking too much of a toll. that the dream is then not what the pressures and the issues that brings up as you're going through it, then maybe you might need to give up the dream. But most people don't try
The
that.
cost outweigh the benefits.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So most people don't try hard enough and then they actually never get there. But for most goals in life, it's very, very achievable. I think what people get wrong sometimes is they believe you can do that in a shorter amount of time versus giving it a little bit more time. The saying we overestimate what we can do in the short period, but underestimate what we can do in the long term. So I think for most people, it's just working towards that. Relating that to wealth. The people on average incomes that have built significant amount of of wealth. Okay, So, and with that, they have just been able to do that because they're stuck with that long term. They had a clear strategy. They were not following the Joneses. They knew that they were not Jones. They knew they were King Dem. They knew they were, the
No, they Jones, oh, no, they Jones.
they knew what they wanted and they just stuck to it. Sometimes luck, sometimes not luck. I actually read an article recently that talked about entrepreneurs. We should give ourselves 50% credit and 50% luck. But generally, what happens is luck comes when you're doing lots of the work as well. Okay.
Exactly,
Yeah. So,
exactly.
so just going back to that, I think people should chase your dreams and probably just give it more time, and understand when you should say, okay, well, I need to give up this dream. It's costing me my health, costing me my relationship, it's costing me everything in life.
Nelson Mandela said something when he was alive. He said, if we try, we may fail, but if we don't, we have failed.
Mm, mm,
So you should always try. And apparently, he did write that book, A Long Walk to Freedom. Sometimes
mm.
the walk to freedom is long, but people only want short walks.
No, especially all these days with lots of the um social media where you see a reel and a reel these days is like what 10 to 30 seconds, 10 to 1 minute, and you see someone's journey, then it's like, oh yeah, they went from X to Y, and yes, amazing in such a period, but at the back of people's minds, they should really understand that that short period might actually be 10, 20 years for people. And so, that long time frame is important to achieve lots of things. It's needed to achieve your long-term goals.
You know, so somebody once said, in order to gain mastery over something or any field, you need to put in 10,000 hours.
Mm,
You know, look at yourself, look at myself, think about it. Those professional exams we wrote back in the days, the time, the effort, the sleepless nights, the commitment, the investments.
mm,
Think about
mm,
it. And, somebody sees you today and then, oh, yeah, you've got this qualification, that qualification. And some persons are envious or jealous and like, oh, I I don't have it, and this guy has it. Like, excuse me, like, do you know what I was doing back in the day? Or do you know what Victor had to do to be victorious?
Yeah, and that's a strong point because I always tell people, you there there is this saying, and you would know it, you're the sum average of the five people you hang out with. Okay, I kind of created my own saying, like your situation now is the sum average of the decisions and the hard work you put over the last 5 years. Going back to the number of years it actually takes to be a professional, it takes roughly about 5 years. So if you haven't
Mm-hmm.
done too much work for 5 years, if you haven't
Mm-hmm.
made the right decisions over 5 years, you probably need to give yourself a little bit more time
Mm-hmm.
to get to where you are. But it's generally not short term. I always joke, if you're not a trust fund kid, and you're trying to make your own path, it is hard work, and
Hard work.
it's left for you to understand that. Even in the book as well, I talked about how you can build $1 million of income, on an average income, from the Australian perspective, obviously, because it's kind of part of what I was trying to help with the Australian audience, but it's very relevant. You need time, and in that book as well, it took the average person about 15 years to build $1 million, but there were lots of trade-off in that, and I also spoke about that because the trade-off as well to building lots of wealth is you're not enjoying now. You're putting that money away to grow for you.
Delayed
And most people want to
gratification.
enjoy, exactly, and most people want to enjoy now. So yes, you might then, okay, say, well, okay, Victor, I don't want to build $1 million in passive wealth, then okay, I'm happy with 500. Yeah. And that's what we do and sit down with clients because it's like balancing things, right? While some people are like, yep, no, I'm happy with that delayed gratification. I want to get that, on an average income in 15 years time. So it's really understanding pros, cons, and, forming your part and working towards it.
I'm about to throw a jab at the Australian audience.
No, no,
You know,
no, don't, do not
it's
throw a
easier.
jab
It's
at my people.
easier.
No,
It's
no,
easier
no, no.
becoming a millionaire, in Australia. Australian dollars is weaker than the US dollars.
Well, from time to time, yes, but it's still worth $1 million in Australia. You know, uh, it's still worth $1 million. A few years ago, it was almost one for one.
Almost. Nearly does not kill a bird. But what's up with Australia?
Be careful what you say if you ever want to come to Australia. I'm just putting it out there. So be nice to
So that
us.
so that I don't get hit by the kangaroos.
Look, our kangaroos are very strong and very active, and you're very healthy. You're very healthy kangaroos. So be careful.
They tell the kangaroos I'm fit. I'm a big fashion
Okay.
artist.
Okay, okay. That's good. I'll tell them and they just get more, more kangaroos to help
Whoa,
out.
I'm not coming again. I am not coming.
Okay, then you better make the Australian people happy, please. Our
Okay,
our dollar is strong, we're
my
happy with it.
yeah, I love you guys, Australia.
Okay, okay. Give him a
Please,
visa next time.
please send me the Australian dollars. I'll use it.
Yeah, we'll allow you come visit temporarily now. You've you've
Okay,
you've you've
thank you
mended
guys.
you've mended the situation.
Thank you guys. Many people actually think about what building as 80% about the numbers, right?
Mm.
But it is actually highly, highly strategic. But like you emphasize that mindset heavily, the strategic mindset. So why is mindset just as critical, if not more important?
Yeah, so very, very good question and very good way to think about it. I actually think well building is 80% mindset and habit. Okay, and why that's important as well, because for most people building wealth, you need to do something repeatedly over a certain period of time, and that then you start to see the returns. It's almost like planting a seed. It's after the planting is done, which is just probably 20% of the effort. The other time now is the watering, the patience, and everything. So wealth building is very similar, where you need to do the same thing repeatedly. Think about saving. I'll just throw numbers out there. Maybe uh, $1,000 a fortnight. Okay, you need to do that consistently. It's a boring thing, but it's the habit about you're disciplined enough to just do that over and over again. And before you know it, that savings starts giving you $1,000 a fortnight as well. Okay, so that really comes down to the habit and the mindset behind it, and really understanding that where I see most people drop off is by them not sticking to the strategy, or them not sticking to the tactics or the steps they need to do consistently to build that habit. And if you don't do that, then the habit is not built. It's very similar to going to the gym. You need to go consistently. And the first day you gym, you're looking around, you're like, what is crazy people? What are they doing? Like, everyone is sweaty and all that. But you then start getting used to it. And first day you might literally just go and look at weights and go home. But you do that every day. Next, you start feeling comfortable in the gym. You start feeling comfortable around people. You start saying, okay, well, okay, I know what to do now. I know this what what barbells do, and this what you can do with the treadmills and all that. And before you know it, you're then a usual and you've built the habit. Where fast forward a few years, if you're sitting down at home and you haven't gone to through your normal routine of going to the gym, you feel bad.
You feel
Same thing
uncomfortable.
with building wealth. You feel uncomfortable. You're just like, what's going on? And it's like, oh, I haven't been to the gym. The same thing with building wealth. And I said, lots of that personally has been learnt and felt through my upbringing, and just teaching people that look, it's a habit that if you're not used to, you will build. You can build over time, but it takes time, and that's why the mindset and then the habit is, I'll probably say 80%. I always joke about and about Rihanna almost running out of money. So why? Because she was making millions. Like if you think about it, people only dream about that kind of money, but she was making millions, but almost running out of money. So the habit there as to the savings or spending below your means wasn't there. Okay, you know. So generally, that 80%, once you have it, the rest is a lot easier. You know, and people that have that 80%, 20% of the strategy, the knowledge, the tactics, and everything, that's where if you have the right people around you, like the right wealth managers and financial advisors like myself, that is very easy to just, really, really build that wealth to a huge amount.
Interesting stuff. I love what you talked about the watering, right? Planting and watering. I think it's high time I gave a very, very big shout out to my friend Donald Nnamdi Agala. He's been very, very supportive of my podcast, even right from the very early stages. And he used to say something. He says, anything you water, it must grow. And then, he really, really admires, my consistency from day one. There are friends that encourage you all the way and say, yeah, you're doing well, you're doing well. Anything you water must grow. He's always saying that. And of course, you have come to actually steal his lines, and he's a fellow Nigerian. So big shout out to Don, I have different nicknames for him. Sometimes I call him Don Moore, and sometimes I call him brother Donald.
Bro,
So
Don.
when you see when you see this, shout out, and of course, Victor is actually saying hi as well.
Yes, yes, bro, Don. I'm saying hi.
all the way from the land down under, all the way from Sydney,
Yes,
Australia.
where we love our dollars.
Yeah, and of course, we are actually going to get you some Australian dollars on.
That was from King Dem, not me.
From Victor, Victor
I
is
can help him
generous.
I can help him invest $1 trillion.
Okay, yeah, I think he would love to invest in Australian dollars, because he's got
Done,
great British pounds. So Don, it is done. We're making a contract with Don.
done.
Well, what are some money myths, you find even smart, high-performing individuals still falling prey to, like, and how can you help them break free?
Yeah, so okay, I'll talk about. So I think the first one is you need a certain amount to start investing. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
when I was writing the book Seven Basic Wealth Strategies for a more rewarding and fulfilling life, the whole idea was to get financial literacy out there to as many people so they just understand that look, you need to get rid of that myth. Okay, because these days the platforms where you can start investing with $10, be it Australian dollars, be it US dollars, whatever dollars, you can start
Any
investing with
dollars,
about 10. You can
even
start investing
even
with about
Zimbabwean
$10.
dollars.
Probably not 10 Zimbabwean dollars, but
Shout out to my Zimbabwean people. Don't
yeah.
try that. You can invest.
No, you can invest with Zimbabwean dollars. I don't even know if they have their own currency now, but the point there was you can start with a small amount. And generally, when you start with a small amount, you're actually trying to build a habit, okay, versus actually trying to make a massive amount of returns. Because yes, $10 invested, even giving you 10% every year is not going to be much in the future. Okay. But by the time you build that habit and then you're transferring lots of your human capital, your ability to work, your ability to generate income into financial capital, which is then the actual dollars in the bank, you will get to a point where you can invest a lot more. And then if you build the habit over time, you're a lot ahead than thinking, okay, well, I need to save 1,000, 10,000, I need to save $1 million before I start investing. It's like, no, you start investing when you can. So that's a big myth that I'll just get people to say, don't use that as an excuse. If you are, coming from a specialist myself, I think it's an excuse. And that's very important because we sit down with
It's a lame
different.
excuse.
Yeah, yeah. So look, the different biases, and look, I spoke about this in my book as well. The different biases. Some biases are cognitive biases. Some biases are emotional biases. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so the $10 thing mostly is a cognitive bias. Okay, it's a bias because of lack of understanding. Okay, versus an emotion behind it. Some people may have an emotion behind it. So the whole point there is when people understand that okay, they should be building a certain habit with the $10 investing there, they will most likely do it versus not understanding why. Okay, and that's why I was trying to really get out the message there in the book, saying you can start with $10. You're trying to build the habit behind that. Okay, and that really helps you long term. Because as I say, when we sit down with different people, you can tell the different mindsets when you just sit down with different people. And that's part of our job, right? Really understanding the mindset where you are at as a person and how we can help you get to the next stage with your wealth building and your wealth knowledge and all that. So that's one myth, start with whatever you have. As I said, your platforms out there that you can start with tiny amounts. Second myth there is that people relate investing to gambling, and coming from someone that has studied finance a lot, I'm like, it is not gambling. And when we break it down a little bit so people can understand is, you know, yes, certain people have an advantage in the stock market, okay, over others. Okay. And, that advantage is kind of there in life in everything. There's certain people that just have an advantage over you, but it doesn't mean you are intentionally disadvantaged. It's a very key point there. It's like, yeah, because those people will still get ahead. You might not get ahead as quickly as them, but it doesn't stop you from getting ahead as well. Because some people then say, okay, well, these people are advantaged, so I'm not going to invest. It's like, well, yes, they might have tools to trade quicker. They might have tools to get more information that you may not get. Okay. But it doesn't mean they're saying, you, Mr. X, we are trading against you. No, they're not trading against you. They're just doing what you're doing. So what that means is that when you think of investing as gambling, and sometimes it comes from that mindset, you're disadvantaging yourself intentionally. So investing is not gambling. When people also think about investing as gambling as well, is just because you're trying to buy the one stock that is $10 and they want it to become, $1,000 overnight. Like, well, then that is gambling. Okay, especially when you don't have any information around it, you don't have any technical ability or intuition around this investment. And for example, intuition might be the surgeon has been working in his industry for years. There's a setting missing component to him doing his job better. He goes and reads about a company that is bringing this thing to market, and then he can say, well, okay, yes, that thing would actually increase my job, exponentially. So he has some, information that other people won't have. Okay, so then if he buys that stock, I'll say, okay, well, that might not be gambling. But very few people are in that situation where they have this knowledge, they're connected to a company that's coming up, and you're like, yep, this company is going to work. Hence why you always need to just diversify, getting 10-15% every year in the market is not bad. If you're getting 10% in the market, whatever you invest is doubling after 7 years. And when you think about going back to the long-term building of wealth, you are then still in a position to build some amount of wealth that is substantial. Yeah. So those are the two myths that I just like people to be like, no, start with whatever you have. That's to the myth. They must have a lot. No, that's not correct. And then the other thing is then ensure that you don't see the market as gambling, because it's not, and diversify your portfolio.
A lot of people are not comfortable with the slow growth, they want high yield investments, right?
Yeah. And look, the different ways to invest, right? Like, and there's the human capital, which you can get a lot quicker investments from, and investment in yourself. I love this quote. It just gets me every time. Your brain cannot function above the limits of its contents.
Mm.
Okay, so in other words, you can't make decisions above what you can. And if you're in a job, or if you're in a business, the quickest way to build wealth is investing more in that job and that business. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do the financial investment by the side. Okay. But for example, as an entrepreneur, you can scale your business with the right growth and mindset from, turning over $100,000 to then turning over $1 million in a short period of time. It takes hard work, but you can, okay? But you can't say, okay, I'm going to invest in the stock market and it's going to grow from, the 100,000 to $1 million in a short period. That is less likely to happen than investment in yourself or investment in your business. Okay. So when people come to me, they're like, I have some money, they might come say, okay, well, Vic, I have $200,000. What do I do with this? I'm like, well, and there might be business owners, and I'm like, okay, has the business grown to a certain level where you're comfortable with? Do you think there's more growth? And generally, excuse me, if the answer to that is, oh, look, I think the business can grow a lot more and we have a strategy behind that, it's X, Y, Z, that may be a better place to put your money than actually putting in the stock market. However, going back to the habit, you still want to put something aside that is going into the stock market consistently that can build you that passive wealth and also just help you build the habit around investing. So, look, I can go on and on for days around investing and all that and the
That's
psychology
interesting.
behind it and all that.
You
So,
know,
but yeah, those are the two myths.
you are actually a very, very big advocate of goal setting tools like vision
Yes,
boards. Can you
yes,
do a
yes.
quick, you know, walkthrough of how you use them practically, right, on a
Mm.
daily basis?
Yeah, yeah. So the whole idea about vision board, I can't remember where I read it from, but I've incorporated it into my life since then, and I've definitely gotten clients to incorporate that as well. The thing about a vision board, it reminds you about what you want, and because pictures speak 1,000 words, you can actually be reminded of that goal in 1,000 ways every time you look at it. Okay. So, a vision board might be you with your family having a certain lifestyle. Okay. And you put that on a board with you, and you might not have a family then. So just put, the whole sticky, if you're not good in that, just a sticky image of you and your, partner and kids and everything. Just put it there. And that will speak 1,000 words to you when you're either down because you feel like, oh, look, okay, this thing's taking too long, even though sometimes, most often, it's not taking too long because you might be in your second year and be like, oh, this is too hard. But look at that vision board, and then that emotional feeling kicks in to actually get you going longer, further, and even faster, potentially. So I think vision boards are very, very powerful tool that people need to incorporate in your long term, legacy like goals, those goals that give you shivers down your spine, but you truly believe you can get there as well. So
Oh,
big advocate. Look, I have mine here, and it needs updating, but I always get people as well. Put it in places that just remind you. So look, I'm at work, and I spend lots of time at work, so it just reminds me there. And I have one at home as well. So so people should definitely put that, at home, at work, maybe a small part in your car if you drive a lot. I think all those things are just powerful tools. And the thing about, in my opinion, being successful, getting to your goals, you need all the help you can get. So all these small things, if you can do it, why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't you just put that sticker there of the thing you want and let it just remind you every day as to, okay, yep, I want that thing and that's what I want, and keeps your eye on the target, focus.
eyes on the prize. You
Yeah,
snooze, you lose.
yeah.
Your book, Seven Basic Wealth Strategies, is getting a lot of great attention right
Mm.
now. So, which one or two strategies do you think most people should start with right now, and why is that?
Yeah, so I was spoken about a few of them already. But chapter one talks about goal setting. Okay, and the thing with um goals, they're very important to keep you going, and they are very important to um keep your direction on the right path. Think about having a GPS in your car, and then you're just driving with the GPS. You haven't put a location. You're just going to be driving potentially forever, or going nowhere. Okay, but now you have the GPS, and you type in your location, go. Then it's directing you to that location, and that's the same thing with your goals. If you don't write down your goals, if you don't have a vision board, you're going to get distracted, or you're just going to be going around in circles. Because this fortnight you might save $1,000, the next fortnight you might save $2,000, the third fortnight, like, why am I even saving? I'm gonna go spend it. And then you spend it on things that you probably don't really care about. And then next time it's like, oh yeah, yeah, okay, now I'm trying to save for this. Yeah, yeah, that's a good idea. And then so there's no direction if you don't write down your goals. So the first chapter is getting people to write down your goals. In the first chapter as well, there are about 10 questions just to guide people around that. It's like, what amount of passive income do you want to have? How many days do you want to work in a week? You know, how do you want to spend your weekends? How do you want your fitness to be, in 10 years' time? Okay. And there's a power around the 10-year goal as well. Okay. 10-year goals sometimes should be legacy-like. Okay, so I've been loving that word legacy lately, and we're actually running a retreat in Bali in October called Legacy in Action. But the point there is the 10-year goal should be legacy-like. Okay, something that is very ambitious, but something that is not so ambitious that you cannot really get to. Okay, so someone that
Realistic.
has yeah. So someone that has a net worth of 100,000 in 10 years time, if you put down, oh, you want 100 million, it's like, well,
It is possible, but
it's like
you just have to have sleepless nights.
I don't even think sleepless nights will get you there. Like I was listening to a podcast by Mark Cuban, and it was like all the billionaires, right? He was like, if that billionaire doesn't tell you there's a huge amount of luck in there, you're not telling you the truth. Okay, so someone
Yeah,
from $100,000, and maybe I should give some caveat around that. An average worker earning an average salary wherever they are in any country with $100,000 worth of investments, in 10 years' time, you can probably make that 1 million on average.
yeah,
Okay. Um,
realistic.
Now let's caveat that a young artist with huge prospects or a young business owner with huge prospects around the business with net worth of $100,000, you can probably make that even 10 to 50 million, depending on what that thing is. Okay. And that's because, when you're running a business or when you're in an industry that the lifespan of that industry is very high, but very short. When I say very high incomes initially. Sports people, example, very high incomes initially, but short. A sports person, other than LeBron James, kudos to him. But a sports person can be really
Short shelf
very, very,
life.
yeah, exactly. Shop like 10, 15, you know, 15 years, and then within that time, you're going from that to zero, you're going from 10 million pounds a year to zero. Okay, so those kind of people is like, well, yeah, they can build a lot over time. So I guess caveating that with what your role is or what the business is, you should have a 10-year goal, but be realistic about it, but be ambitious. Okay? And the key thing there now is that once you have that 10-year goal, right, in year one, you want to be very, very realistic as to what it can be. So going back to the average income earner who has $100,000 and maybe they're saving 1,000 a month, over a 12-month period, that's $12,000. That 1 year goal, that 100,000 can probably grow to 150, 50% growth, probably, depending with your savings and the returns and everything. So once you have your 10-year goal, you want to chunk that down to the 1 year goal. And then once you have that 1 year goal, you want to work towards it. Don't plan too much for the goal for the years after because it's too hard to envision what exactly will happen. Okay. So that's the one part of the book that I just get people to just work on. Write the 10-year goal, chunk it down, work on the 1 year and do what you can. That's it. And each year from that, you step up. So from the 100,000 to the 150, then the year after that, they might get to 225. Before you know it, they'll actually get to the $1 million. Okay, doing all they can. So that's the chapter one. Chapter two then talks about the biases we just spoken about. So biases are very important because everyone has a blind spot. Me sitting down here with you, I have a blind spot. However,
Both conscious and unconscious biases.
exactly. However, even with your unconscious biases, you can get to know them by looking at your habits retrospectively. Okay, so if I have a habit that over the past few years has come up, then it's an unconscious bias that I might not know, but now it's conscious because I know, right? So in the second chapter, it talks about biases and how you can test these biases and what you can do to actually fix these biases. And one of the biggest bias that most people kind of go with or most people experience is the herd mentality. So they just go with the herd. It's like, yeah, whatever other people are doing, I'm going to do as well. And without a plan or without some, active planning around that.
And
So those are
background.
the two things. Yeah, those are the two things I'll get people to really get from the book. And I said the book is universal because there's only one chapter that really talks about superannuation account, which is the retirement accounts in Australia, but we still relate it to the broader world or bigger world, I should say. And because everyone still in most countries they have a retirement fund, but it's very specific, so we can't really say, okay, this is all the retirement funds in the world. It's not possible. But It's just telling people to be conscious of that as well. But setting goals and working on your biases are the two most important things, and that's why they're the first two chapters in the book.
Interesting. I love the concept of the book, and the logical flow that the book has been able to achieve. By the way, where can the viewers get the book?
Yeah, so it's on Amazon, which is good. So Amazon ships to your doorstep, so wherever you are, whether you're in the UK, whether you're in Nigeria, whether you're in Australia, in the States, you jump on Amazon and you type seven, the figure seven, basic wealth strategies, Victor Idoko, that would come up, and then you can buy a book and have a read. We also have a copy on Audible, okay, which is good. So for those listeners out there that love listening, if you listen to the podcast now, you're probably a listener. So easy way is Audible. One of those credits you get every month. Just buy a book. Use the credit to get the book.
I think interesting. I will actually add the links to the book in the show notes for the podcast. So if you're
Amazing.
listening or you're watching, just go to the description of the podcast and you will get a link to grab the book and of course grab your copy right now. You've actually mentioned the concept of building wealth, from a standpoint of being tax efficient and
Yes.
protecting against mistakes. So could you share a practical example where like a small tweak is made and it makes a massive difference in someone's financial future?
Yeah, yeah. So, and this is a very interesting topic because tax is different around the world. Okay, but
Hmm.
with most Western countries you get taxed. Okay, with most non-Western countries you don't get taxed. Okay, so if you're in the non-Western world, yep, enjoy your tax free money, which is good. But in the Western world, what happens is the different avenues that the governments out there have put that you can make tax effective investments. Okay, it differs from country to country. Okay, but um, when you find that you are in a high tax bracket, okay, you need to do a lot to save taxes, and it's very, very important because in Australia here, or rather speaking from an Australian perspective, is if you're in the top marginal tax rate, you for every dollar you get, you give in the tax man 47 cents, so 7.5 to be exact. So what that means is you're almost giving half of what you earned away. Okay, so if you can find a way to keep even half of that, you can look at that as a 22 .75 return, whatever it is, about 22% return on your investment. Okay, and if you're getting 22% return every time, your investments are literally doubling, every three 3.5 years. So that is a very key way or a key thing people need to focus on. So if you're in a high marginal tax rate, you definitely want to find a way to save lots of taxes. So now in these Western countries, there are different accounts, from an Australian perspective, there are things like investment growth bonds, there are things like retirement accounts that you can use to save dollars. And that's where the proper planning really comes in place. Because one, are you saving that money now for legacy? Legacy being you want to pass it on to the next generation. So what is the best way to actually do that? What accounts should we put in that money so you're not giving the tax man 47.5% of whatever you earn to different accounts around that, retirement accounts, investment growth bonds, across the world. Did you hear about they usually called insurance growth bonds, whatever it is, but each jurisdiction has their own word for 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 that. So when we sit down with clients, what we do is try to really understand, okay, how can we help them save this money, especially if it's money that they need now, but can be working for them long term.
Interesting, you've actually worked with different kinds of individuals and families, but there's always a difference between the successful individuals and the less successful individuals. So what would you
Mm.
say is the common denominator in terms of mindset that separates the great from the good?
Yeah, so yeah, very, very good question. I'll say the most important thing for people with that is just the ability to, and this will take us back to bias, is kind of knowing what you know, but also knowing that you may not know a lot. Because lots of the successful people have lots of advisors around them to just guide them. Okay.
Hmm.
So I guess that mindset of being able to just understand, okay, well, I don't really understand this fully, and to take me 16 years of studies, economics, finance, accounting, and all that to fully understand this. Okay, but
Tell
it's
them, tell them.
yes, I've been studying for 16 years, and it doesn't look like it's any,
Easy,
and it's not.
easy. Go run up.
I always like caveating this when I tell people I've been studying for 16 years. Not because I failed. It's not because I failed my units or anything. It's just because, there have been lots of them. So it's just getting people to understand that, look, there's some things that we don't know. So to me, it's the mindset and the mindset around, look, being open to accepting things that you don't know. But those people are those kind of people are still very inquisitive at the same time. So they might not know, but they'll ask lots of questions to gain as much understanding as they can. While as those that are very close to, learning as to, okay, how can this help them, are not really great investors, So, and yeah, and I guess working within that comparative advantage as well. And I gave the example before now about a surgeon trying to invest in the stock. It's like, well, no, your ability to be a better surgeon will give you more money than making some money on this stock,
Exactly.
So focus on that and get someone to
Always
help you with
invest in
something.
yourself.
So
Mhm.
yeah,
I love that. But what's your advice to small business owners, right, and
yes,
professionals in this age and time, right? What should they be paying attention to given this volatile economic climate globally?
yeah. I like
Are
that
they gaining
question. So okay,
opportunities?
yeah. So business owners, I put them in one category, and I love working with business owners, just because I kind of understand the struggle. There's that entrepreneurial spirit that you get when you sit down with business owners. We still work with families and individuals as well. But entrepreneurs is just ensuring you have cash flow. Cash is king. And so with business, because we all know it's up and down. So you just need to ensure you have enough cash flow and you're planning way ahead. A business should be 12 months planning every time. You're not like an individual where, okay, salary comes every fortnight, so you may just be able to get away with planning cash flow wise for the next 3 months. You're good. So businesses, you need to ensure cash flow and
Well, I love hearing cash flow. To interrupt you,
that's all good.
that's something I said. That's something I said a few episodes ago. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, cash is king.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
cash flow is important.
Yeah, I
Liquidity
actually
is
had someone
important.
on my own podcast on my own podcast a while ago, and the way he ended it was, maybe you can steal this one from him. He was like, "Cash flow is reality."
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is reality.
yeah. So the cash flow is reality. No, with businesses is not depending on what you turn over. It depends on what you keep. It's just that simple. You can be turning over $2 million, but if you're spending $2.5 million, you're not keeping anything.
What's the
So
essence?
what's the use? So yeah, for business owners, say cash flow and just planning ahead. And then for both groups now and that's the business owners and then the professionals or individuals and families look, there would always be something going on in the world every time. Since I
Always.
started kind of looking about investments, I think I made my first investment in 2009 or 2008, somewhere around then. From that time till now, there's always something every year that comes up as news,
Wahala no
and
dey
it,
finish.
you know the finish. You know the finish, and you know when you're not there and when you're not in that meeting with, look, I'll just say Trump and the tariffs and all that because that's hot now. If you're not in that meeting, you can never know what is fully happening. So you make the best decision as you go, but sometimes you need to just ignore that, especially if you're investing for the long term. So going back to someone who's trying to build legacy wealth and say investing, $10,000 a month, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what the market does because you're going to be investing this money for the next, what, 5, 10 years. It's like just be diversified, keep your money going in, and just keep investing. Sometimes professionals may then help you, pull back or move forward, but you as the investor, I'll say don't worry about that. Okay, because recently when the tariffs markets and all that were going down, sometimes it's a buying opportunity when it goes down. But you as the investor, don't worry about that. The professionals in your world should say, okay, hey, how about we pull 3 months of the regular investments you're going to do for the next 3 months, pull that in, put it down because it's a good time to buy. So you don't worry about that. That shouldn't dictate what you want because there would always be something. And if you worry too much about that, you're going to be worried for the rest of your life.
Exactly. You know, let's talk about fitness. It's something that is a big passion of yours, and of course, you've actually given yourself away earlier talking about the gym.
Yes.
So, how does physical discipline mirror financial discipline, and how can the audience apply lessons from the gym to money?
Yeah. Yeah. So there are some things that I'm bad at, and I'm okay to say I'm bad at it. It's fine. Okay. And one thing I'm very bad at is I've been trying to learn the piano for a while, and I'm terrible. I go in and my teacher's laughing at me playing, so I'm just that terrible. However, there was one thing he explained that made so much sense. With whatever you're doing is like repetitions in the gym.
Mhm.
Okay. And repetitions is like, and to us gym goers is normal, but by the time you apply it to other things in life, then it makes sense. Excuse me. So repetition is like you do your bench press, you do 10 sets 5 times, whatever it is. That's a repetition. So literally you've done the same movement 50 times, up and down, up and down, up and down. Okay. So that is very important when we're talking about, and sorry, I'm kind of relating this back to wealth, but I'll answer your question. When you're talking about wealth, it's doing the same thing 50 times before progressing to something else. And
Exactly.
having the discipline to then understand, okay, well, I didn't do it the best at the 47th time, but that's fine. We'll keep going. Okay. So
I always
now,
say repetition begets mastery.
yeah, exactly. So now, in terms of how that has really related and helped my life, is because I understand fitness. I've loved fitness right from boarding school back in Nigeria before moving here. So fitness has really helped shape the way I just view things. And the thing with fit, well, I say the thing with fitness, it helps in other aspects as well. And that's why we talk about the health wealth relationships. I think you can't really have you can't enjoy your wealth if you don't have good health. And I think lots of relationships will suffer as well if you don't have good health. And I think wealth is just the key thing. I think the biggest reason people get divorced is money, right? So, and
Tell you.
wealth, and wealth solves that problem because the more you have, the less reason to divorce about the money. Generally. So I think it's when there's no wealth that people want to go separate ways. Generally.
Even our brother sang it, love is sweet, oh, but when money enter, love is sweeter.
Yeah. So very, 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 very important. So look,
Mhm.
personally, I think health has been a key thing for me. I don't think I would have been able to work this long and this many hours without having time for my health. And as I said before, this is where other things fall. So I think my health and my relationships, yeah. So
Th- these fall apart. Oh, like if you could give your younger self advice, let's say 25-year-old Victor,
yes,
very very great piece of life advice, what would you say to him?
take me back with all the knowledge I have now. That would just be amazing.
I bet that is a cheat, a cheat.
Yeah. So look, younger self. I think I've always been very disciplined. Just the way I've grown up. So I've been disciplined with money, disciplined with fitness. Very disciplined in that case that I did lots of things right. Okay, I feel I did lots of things right. However, if I'd learned a lot quicker, which was hard
Mhm.
because I was still learning, maybe I'd have made better financial decisions then.
Mhm.
But advice to myself back then was just probably try and learn a lot faster. You get to that point as well where you look at the last year, you'd be like, oh, I did a lot last year. And then you go past the next year, and it's like you do more than the last year. But if someone had told you 2 years ago saying you would do that, you'd be like, oh, it's a lot. How am I going to fit that in? So just knowing what I know now, there were lots of time wasted. And even though I was still doing a lot, that now when I look back, I'm like, if I had that time, I could have done a lot more different. So I'll say
Learning
just keep
curve.
learning. Yeah, just keep learning, being smarter with the way you do things as well. Lots of things that I should have foregone to learn versus doing myself. Now as a business owner as well, delegate a lot and you get other people to do stuff that you don't need to do, so you can focus on that high level
Exactly.
stuff. I should have done
Yeah.
probably lots of that
Or your
when I was
area of
earlier.
core competence.
Yeah, yeah. So
Very important.
25-year-old as well. I probably told myself to prepare to start a business earlier. This is my going into my fourth year as a business owner now, so I wish I did. I wish I'd done that a lot earlier. And I said, just going back with the knowledge I have now, different situation. So, but it's good. It's all a learning process.
You know, we keep growing older, but growing smarter, and enhancing efficiency over time. So it's not about just working hard, but working smart. And how are you able to achieve more in less time? So a lot of people make the mistake of, attributing activity with productivity, or activity
Hmm.
doesn't always necessarily generate productivity.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we just need to find ways to put it together. And I think life has actually become easier, especially with the advent of AI tools. You
Yes.
know,
Correct.
man, AI is man's best friend right now, but a lot of people are advocating against it.
Yeah.
What were you achieving with AI, brother?
I know. I know. It's a lot. It's a lot. And sorry, just to add to that, to your previous question about going back when I was 25, I think definitely get some good mentors around you.
Mm-hmm.
People that actually help you navigate or scale that part where okay, well, you're gonna make that mistake, scale that, don't make
Mm-hmm.
that, because I think that
Mm-hmm.
would have been very helpful. Well, going back to you talk about AI, look, AI is just an amazing tool. It's an amazing
Mm-hmm.
way to enhance how you can do things quicker. How you can get
Exactly.
lots of knowledge faster. How you can
Mm-hmm.
be of better value to the people around you. Yeah.
Sometimes I kind of envy my mentees. I'm like, how I wish I had somebody, to hold my hand and, give me this advice when I was younger. I think I'll be way, way advanced in life.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
it's always like, what I say, like a cheat code, in this game of life when you have people who are ahead of you give you that jump start. It's it just gives you an unfair advantage. And yeah, for those guys out there, always try to get that unfair advantage. Have somebody who's excelling at what you want to do, and give you that good advice. So, and of course, go meet Victor because he's victorious just by the name. You know, our people will say follow Uno Road, no go follow person where they use Google Maps. Before
That's
before
that's
I allow
only
you
that's
go.
only in Nigeria though. So outside Nigeria, you probably want to follow Google Maps.
Let me give you a quick fire round before I let you
Okay,
go. Just say anything that comes first to your mind.
okay,
So
I'll
the
try.
first 5 questions, we just have 5 questions. So, number one, what's a book that completely shifted your thinking about life and money?
Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow
I love
Rich.
that. I love that. That was the first book my father ever gifted me.
Okay, I think, and look, I'm very, will I say, neutral when it comes to this. That book is from it really helps the man think about lots of things, but I think it's still very good for the ladies, and just appreciates that okay, there's a different angle to that. So that is a book that I will give my son. That is a book I'll give any gentleman in my life. I think it just shows it means a lot, and when he also talked about the um power of foregoing something, and how a key person in your life can really excel you, and he was like, for men's perspective as well, it's like a woman makes or breaks you. Like there's no, and the way, almost the way he put it is, there's no in between. There's no like, she's okay, like she makes or she breaks you. Okay. And for successful men in general, their wives have made them, because it's
Exactly.
definitely huge to just have someone that you can lean on and then can cancel you in times where you probably need a little bit more empathy than you were given, to the people around you, or whatever the case is. So Think and Grow Rich. I can go on and on about the book, and
I
I've
am
read lots of
telling
books.
you, I'm telling you, I Think and Grow Rich, Richest Man in Babylon. Those books are really, really great. And I'm really
Yeah,
grateful like I got to read them, at a very young age. It just helps to shape your perspective in life.
yeah,
Yeah, and that was a good head start as well. I'm grateful.
yeah.
Grateful. So, vision board or detailed financial spreadsheet, which gets you more excited?
Tricky one, vision board. As you said,
Okay,
fun, fast, and
simplicity.
insightful.
Number three, if you had to live in only one city for the next 10 years, where would it be?
Sydney.
No, I don't want Sydney. Give me
I love,
another
I love, I
city.
love Sydney. I love Australia. Sydney has to be Sydney.
Okay, okay, we love us. We love Australia for you.
Look, to my Nigerian people out there, look, I still love Nigeria. I love going back home, but yeah, Sydney.
Keep planting the seeds in Sydney. Okay, number four, what's one daily habit that keeps you grounded and growing?
Oh, for now, I'll say fitness. I'd love for it to be meditation. For now, it's definitely my fitness. I've scaled back on the meditation that I used to do, and yeah, I should definitely try to go back. But fitness, yeah, I can't function without the run, without just breaking a sweat. It definitely has helped me make decisions that are a lot better than if I did not take that run.
Yeah, absolutely. I encourage, you guys out there take fitness more seriously and thank myself and Victor later.
Yes, yes, please. Thank us later. I always joke with my clients. I'm like, look, all these things, I want you to thank me later. When you're 65, let's just sit down and have a nice bottle of wine. So for the fitness thing, people out there, thank us later. Invite me. Let's sit down and have a nice bottle of wine in like 10, 20 years time.
And of course, come along with some Australian dollars.
Yes, for sure. Then it might be more valuable than the US. Let's just see how it goes. This is not
No, number
financial
five.
advice.
No financial advice, please. Disclaimer. Number five. I think I know the answer already, but I'll still ask it because it
Okay.
is written down already. Wealth, freedom, security, or legacy? Which word speaks to you the loudest today and why?
Legacy.
I know.
Legacy.
Why legacy
Legacy.
though?
I don't know. And it's just been resonating with me recently, but it's a strong word because for some people thinking out there, it's not all about money. No, it's whatever legacy you want. Think about your legacy as a father to your kids. Think about your legacy as an uncle. Think about your legacy as a husband. It's just whatever you want. Like it's such a strong word that it's just been resonating with me. So for me, it's legacy. For me as well, legacy is a financial planner as a wealth manager to my clients. Like, what do they want to think about Victor when I'm gone? Um, what impact have I left in that? And some of them I've left. I feel, and you've told me as well that I've left an amazing impact. So to me, it's legacy, and I think all that is built into legacy. Your wealth health relationship is legacy. The kind of relationship you want with your significant other, that's legacy both of you would leave for. When you think about Mr. X and Mr. Y, I'm sorry, Mr. X and Mrs. Y, sorry, Mr. X and Mrs. X, it's like, so to me, it's legacy, and it's not easily gotten, but it can be achieved, you know?
You have to earn it.
Yeah, yeah. So, and at the same time, it mustn't be something too grandiose, okay? It can just be something, I went for all of my kids' games, for example. Look, that's not me. That's not the legacy I want to leave. But I know, and it's just being honest, right? So but for a dad out there, might be like, "Yep, I went to all my kids' basketball games." That's a legacy by itself. It's not easy, but it's what you've chosen to then do, and that would mean that person might have to give up a few things along the way to do that. It's always a trade-off. For my own legacy, I cannot do that for my kids. But the other legacy I want to leave for my kids in the future. So legacy.
Speaking of legacy, it just reminded me of when I was growing up back in Nigeria. I think in schools they used to say education is the best legacy. Education is the best legacy you can give your children. Yeah, and I think that is
Yeah,
still kind of true today. Education is still the best legacy you can leave for your kids. Take your
yeah.
man the
So
fish you fed him for a day, or teach your man the fish you fed
yeah,
him for a
yeah,
lifetime.
and I think that, and I like breaking things down. I think it's just my mentality. So the legacy there, rather the education there for me, I agree with that statement. But the education for me is not the go to school, go learn. It's the education you
No,
sit down
no.
with them and speak to your boys man to man, saying, hey, you don't do that because of X, Y, Z. Speak to your daughters as well, saying, based on our agreement, our standards, this is what should be. That to me, that's education. That's
Mm-hmm.
from the heart where you're giving them all these things. That's the kind of education I want to leave for them. I honestly don't think I need to be at all basketball games. As I said, just an example, and everyone's legacy is different. I don't need to be at all
Mm-hmm.
basketball games to pass down the legacy I want to them, but I need to be able to have deep conversations with them where they grow up thinking, hey, I'm grateful for that, and me then knowing that, look, I made time out to give them that because not many people do that, and I think this is one of the things missing as well in the in some cultures where you don't really have that heart-to-heart conversation with parents. Okay, and you know that in Africa it's a little bit this is what I say and that's it. But there's a difference between connecting on a deeper level with deeper conversation, especially as they grow. Especially as they
Mm-hmm.
get to a stage where they can understand things, and
Mm-hmm.
so I actually look forward to things like that. And to me, that's the legacy I want to leave with my kids. So it's not about going to all the games, but for some other people, that's what it is, and that's fine. That is fine. I think I need to make that clear that people just understand is what you want. It is
Again,
what you want.
activity doesn't necessarily generate productivity.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So
Wow. Speaking of leaving a legacy, I think you've actually left a highly impactful legacy on this podcast and on the
amazing.
listeners,
I'm happy.
on the audience. And guys, please, Adebeguna, go and subscribe. Go like, share with your friends, your families, your village people. Uh,
Yes, yes. We want to see the picture of the villagers sitting around and watching this laptop. Let's.
I am telling you. And of course, from me to you, I always say this that an attitude of gratitude is good attitude. And of course, if somebody shares their time with you, they share their life with you because the SI unit of measuring life is time. So thank you very much to you, Victor, today, for sharing your time on the podcast. And it means a lot to me. I do not take you for granted. Love and respect to you. And of course, guys, Victor is also a financial supporter of the podcast. So big shout out to Victor. May you continue to be victorious.
Amen.
Respect, brother. So do you want to leave a shout out for anybody before you leave?
No, I just want to say thanks for everyone for listening. I think it's good people just getting people's perspectives. I'm a man of perspective, respect other people's perspective, and don't be scared to say yours. I don't think there's right or wrong. And just share this with everyone. Our book's on Amazon, and so get a copy, leave feedback for us as well. You can definitely
Check the
reach out
description.
to me. Yeah, you can definitely reach out to me directly as well because I want to improve the book, and I also want to write other books as well. And yeah, so we give financial advice within Australia. So if anyone is in Australia or coming here and needs guidance on how to build wealth and how to manage money with people to go to, we're going international soon, hopefully. So we'll be able to help people internationally on a different level, you know.
Interesting. So from me to you guys, it is goodbye. No, not goodbye. See you soon. Look after yourselves, guys.